State lawmakers can either help our state's housing crisis or make it worse in this year's legislative session. Coming up on AWB Amplified. Washington State faces a historic housing crisis. Our state's median home price is more than $578,000. Just 7 of the state's 33 counties are affordable for first-time buyers, and demand is far greater than supply.
Our population has grown by 16% over the last decade, but between 2000 and 2015, we've underproduced 225,000 homes.
So almost 70% of residential land in the city of Seattle is zoned single family. That made sense when zoning was created back in 1937. It made sense up until the 1970s. It does not make sense now.
Affordable housing is critical to economic development and the overall quality of life in our state. Now, the Washington legislature is poised to make major changes that could help or hurt our state's housing supply. Let's take a look at the bills that could help. House Bill 1782 and Senate Bill 5670 would amend the state's Growth Management Act to allow additional housing options across the state. These bills, supported by Governor Inslee, clear the way for more duplexes, triplexes, and other missing middle housing options to be built in neighborhoods currently restricted to single-family zoning.
We can't get more people housed if there is nowhere to build housing. So we must pass legislation that removes antiquated barriers to middle housing options in our cities.
It's good housing for young people. It can be good housing for older people, a good entry-level housing when it's purchased or even rented in terms of price points for younger folks.
Another bill that would help is House Bill 1232, sponsored by Representative Andrew Barkas. Among other reforms, this bill requires cities and counties to consider more housing options such as duplexes, triplexes, and townhomes in long-term planning decisions. Unfortunately, lawmakers are also considering several bills that would add new regulations, reduce the amount of buildable land, and make housing options more expensive. House Bill 1838 places major restrictions on public and private property that borders rivers and streams. While well-intentioned to protect salmon, this bill would have major unintended consequences by further restricting our state's land supply, and many say the proper stakeholders were not at the table.
Without the wonderful land that is created by floodplains over the years, agriculture in this state and Western Washington for sure would just not exist anymore. You know, the Skagit Valley, no more Tulip Festival, the Puyallup Valley, that's where food comes from. There would be no farmers.
A few other bills could add to the affordable housing challenges in Washington state. House Bills 1117 and 1099, along with Senate Bill 5042, all make burdensome and unnecessary changes to the Growth Management Act, further restricting already complicated planning efforts.
So for each bill that we see that's trying to make progress in increasing accessibility, we see companion legislation each year that is providing additional restrictions and burdens on increasing development costs and restricting land availability.
The bottom line, the more regulation and restrictions we place on our state's available land supply, the more expensive housing becomes. Washington's housing market is out of balance and needs attention. Why?
Especially with the tremendous population growth that we've experienced in Washington, we need to create more middle housing so folks can be close to where they work, close to high capacity transit for a better work-life balance. It's better for our economy. It's better for the carbon footprint, and it creates a solution to our housing crisis.
Happy employees, healthy businesses, stronger economy.
We need housing, and we need a lot more of it, because if we don't, we will lose our competitive edge.
Washington's housing crisis has been years in the making, and one legislative session won't solve it. This will take many years of policy improvements to restore a balanced market. AWB has been following the housing crisis for years, convening experts and lawmakers at our housing forum. Our Land Use Committee is actively working on this year's legislation. To learn more and get involved, please contact me at mike.e@awb.org.